You click on this video because you might be using Calendly right now or you've heard of Calendly. Now, I'm going to be breaking down how they estimately made 270 million in annual recurring revenue. This was a source that I picked out in 2024, but it's 2026 right now. So, of course, they've made more than 270 million in annual recurring revenue. Now, you might be wondering, Calendly is just a scheduling software where people click on the link and book meetings with you, right? So how the hell did they make 270 million in ARR? I'm going to be showing you, I'm going to be breaking down to you. And the reason why I'm qualified to make this video is because I am using the same framework that Calendly is using to make 9 figures in annual recurring revenue for my own software clients to help them add an extra 10 to 15K in their own revenue. This video will be breaking down into 4 simple phases. The first one being phase 1 diagnosis. This is where we would map their current onboarding path, identify Calendly's aha moment, and identifying what is their bottlenecks. I forgot one thing. Wait, okay, before I even go to phase 2, I forgot to mention something. Important preface of this video that this is not really about design or UI breakdown. It's way more deeper than that. This is about user sympathy. Seeing it from a user's perspective to think like them, because this is all about your user. And then we will be getting into behavioral psychology, UI and UX judgment, of course, and funnel analysis. And so in this video, I want you to take down what you can learn from Calendly because, hey, I mean, they're a 9 figure software company. And I will also be talking about the mistakes that you can avoid from Calendly. So take out a notepad, close all tabs and pay attention to this video because this is going to be very deep. I'm not going to be talking about some cookie cutter theory stuff. I'm going to get very, very technical. But before I get into the whole analysis, all right, let's understand one thing. What is Calendly actually? Now, to put in one simple sentence, Calendly, it is a scheduling meeting software built for booking meetings through one link without going back and forth. I mean, that's what people are using Calendly for. That's what I'm using Calendly for. For example, on this video, I'm not affiliated with them or anything. I just like their product. And their main value proposition is the ease of booking appointments with people via just one link. No emails, no going back and forth for you to just click to that one link and then you can select a preferable period to get on meeting with people, I guess. Now, back to what I was saying. We've already covered phase 1, which is diagnosis. Now, phase 2 of the framework on how Calendly makes 9 figure ARR is phase 2, fix the leak. This is where we're going to be ruthlessly simplifying their onboarding processes and shortening their time to first value. Meaning to say that we're going to be shortening the time that it takes for a user to go from sign up to value. Now, phase 3 is building the loop. This is where we're going to be talking about retention and habit formation. Fucking, I always missed out those words. This is where we're going to be build. I'm fucking repeating myself, but yeah, building habit loops in a form of triggering a user to come back to using the product, their action of what they do when they come back, and the reward system gratification when they come back. And phase 4 is capturing the value. This is where the money comes in, right? This is where monetization really plays a part. And the phase 4 is more about triggering expansion and upgrade moments in the product, which then brings me to phase 1 in the onboarding process, diagnosis. This is where we're going to be mapping Calendly's current onboarding pathway. Now, I really want to clarify this one thing and say that Calendly actually already has a very efficient onboarding process. This is why. Firstly, let's talk about the sign up process. I mean, this is it. It doesn't get as simple as this. You just sign up through your email, or better yet, if you want to save time and just simplify the sign up process, is log in with your Google or Microsoft account. But I would say this is also the first bottleneck that they have, is that sure, the sign up is clean, straight to the point, very low friction, but one small bottleneck. It's very important that in the email sign up process for you to have different platforms like Google, Microsoft, and Apple. That is what Calendly is missing. Now, you might be wondering, oh, this is just a small thing. It's not a big deal. Yes, it is. And I'm telling you why. A lot of people use Mac. And when people use a Mac or an Apple product to sign up to their phone, those people who are using an Apple product are using their iCloud account. Now, but if the toggle here only has Google, Microsoft, and no Apple account, those who are using Apple products or Mac can get into their iCloud account, and that will create friction. Think about it, millions and millions of people are using Apple product, but Calendly doesn't have Apple. And I really want to emphasize this one thing when it comes to the sign up process, the first process, this is considered to be the first impression on a date. You don't want to have any friction or any hiccups. You want it to be as simple as possible for people to get into the product and hard as possible for them to get out of your product. I'm kind of micro analyzing things, but that is my job. That is part of this entire video. So that is one small bottleneck that Calendly has, which plays a huge part of the sign up process. So yeah, this is the first lesson I feel you can learn from Calendly, to always have different platforms when it comes to the sign up process, like Apple, Google. To be fair, no one really uses Microsoft. So yeah, I would say that having a login with Apple is way more important. And so upon signing up, you'll be introduced to this, the first step of the onboarding process. Now, very simple, very clean. But firstly, I would want to talk about this one element, which is the step 1 to 5. This is what you call a progress bar. And the reason why Calendly has this is to reduce churn in the onboarding process through transparency of steps. Because it says here, step 1 is to 5. Whereas let's say in your onboarding process, you have different like hundreds of tens different steps. And if you're not transparent with that, like people are gonna be, the chances of people bouncing are gonna be higher, because just this number of saying that 1 to 5, it's not, when you think about it, it's not really that big of a deal when you actually see it in that way. And another purpose of the progress bar is that it creates momentum when the completion bias kicks in, because as you can imagine, once a user gets past step 1, they'll be going to step 2, step 3, step 4. These are what you call micro momentum that plays a part in the user behavior and the psychology, that the small snowball effect of more action, more momentum. And I feel like, yeah, this is the step 2 of the onboarding process. Kind of the same thing as step number 1, which is these are just questions for the Calendly team to get data. If I'm being honest, the opinions doesn't really matter for the user. Meaning that if, let's say, if I were to pick my own team, or I mean if I were to choose my own or my own team tab, doesn't really matter. You're still getting to the same UI. Same thing with this. How Calendly helps you is it through collect payments or schedule meetings. They're really just doing this for their own data. Yeah. So overall, these two pages are a good placement of the pages at the start of the sign up. Reason being is because it's low friction. You're just clicking some options and then you're moving on to the next one. So very clean, very low friction. And step 3 is kind of a purpose for you to connect your account to your calendar. This is more hands-on for you to actually, like, you're getting way closer to the value. So good thing that this is part of step 3, and it's good that they didn't put this too early or too late, literally in between of the 5 steps. But I would say when it comes to this page of selecting which calendars you would want to connect your Google account to, or your Microsoft account if you're a weirdo who uses Outlook, if I'm being honest. There are 2 friction points to this page, and that is a small cognitive overload, because there are 2 drop downs and a drop down to check sub calendars. As you can see here, there's 1 drop down, and then there's 2 drop downs, and then there's this one that you can open it. Now I'm seeing this from a perspective of a completely new user who knows nothing about Calendly. It can create some cognitive overload and friction. And the second friction point is kind of a similar thing that I've mentioned in the sign up process, and that is they only have Google and Microsoft supported, as shown in the sign up process, right? Now, moving on to step 4 of the onboarding process, this is a page where you are setting up for the aha moment. Because to break down what is Calendly's value moment is just the ease of booking appointments via one link. And so now this page of setting up your availability for people to book meetings with you, I would consider this page to be a bridge to the value. This all toggle you see here, they are all by default. Now that is good because that is the bare standard that the typical people working office hours have. When I was a completely new user to Calendly, it's very easy for me to figure out what's going on here. The X is to cancel out the day. If you to click on this, the numbering of the time, that's how you change it, etc. Like things like this, just very simple, very flexible, flexible in their editing phase. The next one is visual clarity of the UI, like S for Monday, M for Monday. I mean S for Sunday, M for Monday, etc. And the time, time is quite self-explanatory as you see here, right? S for Sunday, then S1, S forward. You got the 7 days in the week. And yeah, this is again good because you are, well, you as in Calendly are getting users way more hands-on, which drives more momentum for a user to use this feature even more. And that brings me to the final step of the onboarding process, step 5 out of 5. And you see here, this is like small thing that I want to note out here. When a user were to see this progress bar being filled, like the whole blue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars full, they have a small dopamine hit of completion. Of now they have set up their Calendly, they are ready to use the feature more. They are ready to be welcome in the UI. So yeah, this is what I mean by that Calendly actually has an efficient and very clean, very frictionless onboarding process. Now, this is the page where a user would to choose what platform they want to host their meetings. What's good about this page is, yeah, simple decision. There's only 5 clear options. The main one being Zoom, Google Meet, and Microsoft Teams. I don't know. I I've not really known any people who uses Calendly to book in-person meetups or phone calls. Of course, there are, but just not people that I'm familiar with. As someone who runs an online business, right? And yeah, smart default because I signed this account with my Google account. And what they do is they have Google Meet pre-selected. And the progress bar is something that I've mentioned just now about filling completion. Another small thing that I want to break down is this copy of set a meeting location for your first scheduling. You can change this later. This brings some okay, this is what you call reassuring copies, meaning that in Calendly's case, it brings reassurance to users who like to change where users want to be held. And once you click continue of step 5 to 5, this is the loading before you getting into the UI. And now we're getting into the UI, which means we're also getting into phase 2, fixing the leak, the activation engine. Firstly, I'm going to be defining Calendly's value moment or their value proposition, which is creating your first schedule and share that booking link. This is an example of mine. Yeah, just this one link. I mean, what can I say? It's that simple, I guess. This is literally Calendly's value proposition, and I like it. It's simple. It's clean. So after your onboarding process, this is gonna be the UI you're gonna be introduced. As you can see, this is the first value met. User already has a shareable booking link ready to use. And the good thing about this UI is that Calendly doesn't really waste your time and auto generates the first event right here, which is this one, the purple 30 minutes meeting tab right here. This is really good because it eliminates activation friction and shows an instant output for users to not lose momentum. I feel like that's kind of Calendly's momentum here. And that is momentum. Just small momentum steps, small value moment, and then you are getting into the first value, which is just this right straight away. Very little hiccups, very little friction here. And that is, of course, something that you can learn from Calendly. I would want to break something down. You would also be introducing to this page right here, the Get Started page. Now, this is kind of a Calendly's optional way for you to learn how they work. This is Calendly's way of how they educate their users. This is just a simple video of how to get started with Calendly. And an important thing for you to show up is the do not show again, because this does disturb some users. Some users do not want to see no articles or no education video, and they would rather just discover things on their own. But of course, it's just important for you just to throw it out. Throw a customer education thingy like this tab, in-app toolbox, something like that, just to show users that you care about them. And the second one is similar to the first one, but the difference is they have this like a checklist. Similar thing to the progress bar when you see a checklist in a product is all to do with dopamine hits and momentum building. And this checklist is about downloading a Chrome extension. Now, if your product can do a similar thing where a user can use your product by using an extension, I would highly recommend you to do that. Because what an extension does for Calendly is that it allows users to use your product without even opening the app. In Calendly's case, specific case, by the way, this is the extension in itself. It is a very important and useful extension for users because they can just copy their own schedule links if they want to share without having the need to open the software in itself. So we're talking about the ease of use being efficient for your users. The other two tabs are kind of similar to the second one, but I also want to mention one thing that you see in this one and two checklist. Notice how the checklist only has two things when you complete them. This is done on purpose by Calendly because they don't want users to get overwhelmed. Imagine if their checklist, which is on a sidebar of the UI, right, on this get started tab. Imagine if Calendly has another checklist, another four checklists, maybe five checklists. That's too much friction for a user. So yeah, it's very important when you want to do this sort of checklist, just get them to do one, two, or I would say max have only three checklists. You shouldn't go any more than that. I feel like more than three is way too much. Well, technically they have two, four, six right here, but it's all broken down. So they're being the UI designers being smart with this. Now, this right here is the main core value of Calendly right here. Okay, that's an ugly rectangle, but as you know, those who use Calendly is that if you to click on this copy link, that's when people will book the appointment with you. And this is the page that we all know and love, and this is the time to value. As far as I've seen, on average, it will take a normal user 4 to 6 minutes for them to actually get to this point, for them to create this meeting link and copy paste it on whatever social media they want. And the time to value from sign up to this point of the product is 4 to 6 minutes right here. So as we know, from step one is when users create their an account, and that's when you will select the use case, which is the one that I showed in the onboarding process. Then step three is calendar connection, whether you want to connect it to your Google or your Microsoft account. Then the time availability setup. This is when I mean, I really have to explain it. I literally just went through it like what 10 minutes ago. And meeting location, whether you want your call to be on MS Teams or Zoom or Google Meet. Step 6 is when you can edit the schedule meeting, and step 7 is the time to value, which is this copy link is when you copy the booking link page and send it wherever you want. So this is the first value of the dashboard of the UI, which is this whole thing right here, this old fancy simple feature right here. Moving on forward, Calendly actually has a missing opportunity where that they don't really have a celebration moment with confettis and celebrations and balloons and shit, something like that, when a user first create their custom made booking link. Like an example right here. Ooh, confetti, your booking link is ready. I know it sounds corny, but this is the type of shit that sparks dopamine of fulfillment in the human kid brain. Alright? Because humans are all simple creatures, and these are the type of shit that actually brings in strong activation and retention, and for a user to keep on using the product more is this sort of validation of them completing the things that you want them to do. Treat it like a puppy does a trick, you give them treats, and the treats being in Calendly's case is confettis and stuff. If a user were to complete something that you want them to complete, specifically a value moment that they have completed, congratulate them. All right, give them validation, give them some dopamine or fulfillment. And since their time to value is 4 to 6 minutes, And by the nature of how the UI looks, usually I would actually do some audit to shorten products time to value. But in this case, Calendly is one of the rare cases where there's no need for me to actually shorten the time to value even more because it's really that short. Like I said, Calendly has done an incredible job of just being very efficient and not wasting any time, any space with their whole process. With that being said, now since we have already defined their value, we have seen Calendly's value proposition, we've seen their time to value. Now let's move on to phase three, which is building the loop, retention, and habit formation. This is where we're going to be analyzing the habit loops to make users come back for more. And to put it simply, this is basically an illustration framework of what Calendly's habit loop looks like. A trigger of a user thinking, I need to share my booking link. And once they have this thought of them wanting to share the booking link, they will open Calendly, copy the link, and paste it somewhere. This is the action. And now the rewards that the people that they want to target can now book with them. And then it's basically just repeat from here. Whenever a user wants to share the link of the booking link, they will just repeat this whole entire process again. This is literally Calendly's habit loop. It's that simple. Now, let's break it down even further into the trigger, the action, and the reward. For example, the first trigger, which is the most common trigger of a user, is needing to share the booking link, right? And then the action is simply copying the booking link. What happens is, I mean, I don't have to explain how to use Calendly, like I said. The amount of frequency this action happens probably is gonna be multiple times per week or maybe daily if let's say they have multiple of different events that they want to share to different places. And the friction is near zero because it's just one link, right? You just click on the copy link button and then there you have it. You can paste it anywhere else. And the reward of from this action of copying the booking link is that the link is shared successfully. And once the link is shared successfully, they would think now people can book with me. And when they think that now people can book with them, this brings in emotions of accomplishment, accessibility, and professionalism. It's very important to note that when it comes to the reward of the action that they do, make sure that you want them to feel accomplished. This is the main thing. I feel like professionalism is more of like a side thing, or accessibility is another thing specifically for Calendly. But for the general use case for your product, make sure that your user feel a sense of accomplishment once they do the action of your product. And then so the second trigger is them needing to change their availability. This usually happens when a user, wants to edit their workly hours or add different dates. The amount of frequency of this happening is probably weekly or monthly. And the friction this one is low because for a user to edit the schedule is not that hard. And the reward for this is that they will feel a sense of control and peace of mind because if let's say they are on a holiday or something, now they know that no one can book me during my vacation or some shit like that. So that's the reward of it. The third trigger is having to create a new event type, like you see here, having more than one event type right here. And this usually happens when a user has more than one service or they want to have a group meeting instead of one-on-one services. The fourth habit loop trigger they would have is, users needing to check upcoming meetings, which is a very important trigger that they have, right? This would typically happen daily. Of course, they need to check who's booked and who's not. And yeah, the friction of this is near to zero because you're just viewing it, right? And I would say the third trigger of having to create a new event type and checking upcoming meetings have the same award system, and the feeling of creating a new event type is productivity, whereas the trigger of checking upcoming meetings is either a peace of mind or having your pipeline full of sales. And now the fifth trigger is needing to integrate other tools to Calendly, such as Stripe or Zapier or Pay or Slack or HubSpot. A lot of these different tools that is already on Calendly. Users would typically want to integrate these tools to Calendly, of course, and I feel like the frequency of this is either one time or occasionally. Typically just one time because it's just, you set it up for once and then it's all sorted. And the reward of connecting integrations is a feeling of efficiency and automation because for example, if a user were to connect Stripe to Calendly, they would know that they can handle payments before or directly after the meeting is made. So now the bottom line, and this one is the main thing, is that Calendly's retention and habit loop formation is about being there when needed like a utility tool. It's not just there for the sake of it. It's not there when you want to use it. It's there when you need it. And if you actually notice a pattern that the triggers are all practical, share a link, update schedules, check meetings, connect tools, they're all very tangible, very hands-on basically. And the actions are fast. This is also the main thing, is that it doesn't take a lot of steps, a lot of clicks for it to do it. Just one click or very quick edits or usually a couple of things. And I would really say that the retention really comes from being useful when needed, like I mentioned, having low friction on repeated visits, repeated actions mainly. So this is the habit loop breakdown, Calendly strategy of how they retain users and make them coming back for more and how they actually place them. The main way is actually through limits on the free plan that forces users to upgrade. And talking about limits, there are two type of limits that Calendly does. And the first one being the event type limits. This is the main trigger. In case if you're wondering what the fuck am I talking about when it comes to event type limits, I'll show you. For example, the free plan of Calendly only allow one event types, like this one, the default one as you see. This is only on the free plan. You can only create one event type, and if you want to create more than two event types, you got to be on the paid plan right here. This is the paid plan that allows you to have more than one meeting types. And what could trigger this limit is, let's say a user wants to offer multiple services. For example, a info coach that has two types of meetings, which is a free 15-minute discovery call and a paid 60-minute session. These are two different events, you see, which is why these sort of users, power users, want to have different sort of meetings. And these are also the exact sort of users who would get on the paid plan. Now, the reason why this limit works, the event type works, is because it's a hard limit, meaning that users can work around with just having one type of event, so they're forced to upgrade. It's a very simple but powerful strategy to get your free users to become paying customers. You get them only to experience one part of your value proposition, and that one value proposition, some of the users may need to have more than that. So they have no choice but to upgrade. Because if not, then they can't work, right? For example, being this info coach, he needs this both, or else motherfucker can make business, right? And the second reason why this works so well is because it really shows the clear value on what you're getting if you upgrade. For example, being the info coach, more flexibility of events equals more bookings, and more bookings equals more revenue for that user. And now moving on to the second type of limits is the one-on-one limit. This is the secondary limit, and that is on the free plan of Calendly. They only allow one-on-one event type, meaning that you can do group calls or collective schedules. On the free plan of Calendly, you can only book one-on-one type of meetings. But however, on the paid plan, you have this plethora of events that you can choose. One-on-one being the default, you can do group meetings. You got round robin, which, in case if you're wondering, this is a way for teams to rotate different meetings across team members. And collective is a way for you to share meetings across team members. I hope that makes sense. Honestly, I've never really used this before, but I feel like I feel like that makes sense. And what could have triggered this limit is that if a user wants to have group consultations or webinars, or let's say a sales team who wants to share booking appointments across the team using the round robin feature. So I would say that this feature, when it comes to one-on-one limit, typically tend to be for enterprises, team members, people who are already who may have more than 5 employees inside the company. And why this limit works so powerfully is that the limit would trigger typically users who are already printing with appointments, right? Yes, I said the people who face this trigger of the limit tend to be teams or enterprises. Only those users who would have the capital would pay for the group meetings. So these are the main two limits of how Calendly pushes limits on the free plan that forces users to upgrade. And so this is the funnel that I want to share from top to bottom simply. On the free tier, which is the majority of users would pay $0 and the revenue for Calendly is zero. And the purpose of the free tier is to get all of the users to taste the value of the product that they pay for more. And all of the users are hit with the limit of only having one type of event and only having one-on-one events to be allowed. These two on the free plan. Okay, I just realized something. The arrow should be pointing downwards. All right, hold on. And then so from there, a small percentage of users would upgrade when they hit this limit, typically team members or a user who has more than one services. This brings in to the standard tier. And the strategy for the standard tier is okay, I don't know why I said it in a zesty way, but the strategy for the standard tier is having volume at a small price, and that equals to big revenue. Typically, these users would only pay for $10 per month, so the price is small, but the volume is high. So this is when the money starts to roll in. People would pay monthly subscription per user. The revenue is individual subscriptions, and yeah, the value is unlimited event links. And the revenue is commonly triggered by the event type limits. And that funnels down to the team tier list. This would range from small teams to large organizations. And the strategy for the teams tier is having seat expansion. $16 per seat for every month. And seat expand fuck six fuck seat expansion of course equals to revenue multiplication. So teams would pay per seat every month, so the revenue would come from the base subscription plus the seat expansion as the team grows. This would typically be triggered by the round robin schedule, the collective scheduling, and the group meetings. Like I said, a lot of these features are typically used for large organizations or small teams, and these are the people who would have the capital to afford these things for each team member. And now that wraps up my whole breakdown of Calendly and how they make 9 figures in annually recurring revenue. If you want to apply the same strategy to your own product, you can book the link with me on Calendly, ironically, not making this shit up. I just like to use Calendly, it's an incredible product. Like I said, I'm not affiliated with them whatsoever. I'm just making this breakdown video because I understand how the business works. And if you wanna add 10 to 15K in your revenue and you want to apply the same strategy to your own product, you want me to audit and make you more money, then click the link. You can work with me one on one.